let's get moving. Like I mentioned, we're a bit late. So we've been looking at, we are following this series called A Changed World. And we are talking about the ways in which Christianity has changed certain ways in which we do things in this world. First, we started by talking about creating new families. Jesus, at the heart of what Jesus was doing was creating alternative families. And we looked at our natural families, they are what we call strong kinship families. They are families that are bound by blood. But Jesus' goal was to create a different family that's not bound by blood, but bound by those who do the will of God. Who defines what the will of God is? Jesus. He defines what the will. So to the extent that today we have communities from different, like we are used to being people from different places, spending time together and being together. But that's not how the world was before. Especially, that was not how the world was, especially in terms of how we relate to one another. So there were social groups even in the ancient world. But the social groups always try to keep the way things were done in the culture and brought it in. So like, if you were a slave in the social, in the general world, then in a certain social grouping, which is like not based on family and blah blah and so on, you are still treated like a slave in there. I hope you are getting it. But in Christianity, when Christianity began, people who were slaves, people who were freed, people who were whatever it is. Once you came into the church, you were treated with the same level of dignity that was accorded to everybody, based in the early Christianity, before our empire took over and began to reinforce the old ways of doing things. So that starts from there. Jesus is creating a new family. Today we are used to some of the effects of that, but we are still struggling with it. It's not easy to take people from different cultures and backgrounds and put them together. So that's number one. Then number two, we talked about marriage, and we talked a bit about specifically on faithful monogamy. That Christianity is basically the religion that introduced the idea of a man and a wife being married and staying faithful to each other. Because one man, one wife was not new. It existed in the world. But the way it existed was you could have one wife, but plenty side chicks. Just you should have an official wife. But if you have others on the side, then no problem. You know, even when Christianity went to Europe, when it got to the Europe, still it took a long time for many people to move to the place where they say, okay, men, they are married only one, and I'm staying with only that one. I'm not going after other. And so I'm trying to. We are doing a part 2 of that today, going deeper into how Christianity redefined marriage. And I want to delve in specifically to a comparison between polygamy and faithful monogamy. Again, I always use the word faithful monogamy. I append faithful to it because monogamy is not new to the world. But faithful monogamy is staying faithful to only one partner in the marriage union. So, as we say, death do us part. Okay. So, today we compare polygamy, which was pervasive before Christianity came along, with faithful monogamy, which is a solely Christian invention. And we will use the work of sociologist and archaeologist Joseph Henrich. He had a book called The Weirdest People in the World, to try to understand this difference. So I drew a lot from Joseph Henrich's work. And so one, polygamy. Polygamy is one man marrying multiple wives. Of course, there's the other one, which is one woman having multiple husbands. But that's rare. One woman having multiple husbands. Have you ever seen? They are trying to, but that one is a modern thing. The ancient one is always man with plenty wives. That's what we always do. And to be very, very honest today, I need to say this and say it on record. Polygamy is the natural mode of marriage among women. When I say natural, what I mean is that it fits more with evolution. Evolution is science for idea that we are saying and one independent now, yes, as a son. Now, say, only to me, to me, any amount. Because if you are saying, from about different, evolution works on that principle. It is the survival of the fittest. Those who are strong are those who survive and who thrive. And therefore you have to you are either strong or you have to adapt to become stronger so that you will survive. That's evolution. So, and it fits more, polygamy fits more with evolution. So that's what I mean by it is the more natural one. Primarily because one, at the heart of polygamy is the idea that it benefits stronger men. Here, stronger means anything that gives you money or resources. Sometimes you gain, you have actual cash. That one is there. Or animals, or plant, like in the Asian one, they have the one who has plenty animals and plenty, he's the rich man. Sometimes you have position, posts. You are the chief of this town or something like that. You may not be the wealthiest man, but the post gives you an opportunity to make wealth. You get me? It gives you a certain stability, it gives you strength. So when we say strength, basically we're saying that anything that gives a man higher status than other men, that is wealth or anything that can lead to wealth. For example, position of fame. What did you as for the man who said yeah. Me na me kasa yiti. That's what he was saying. So anything, power, status, fame, those things can be converted to resources. So it is a system that always benefits those who are stronger. Okay. But let's not forget what we're talking about in earlier when we talked about marriage, that we Christians our understanding of marriage is based on the idea that Jesus let go of his privilege because he had a privilege to, or let's even go back to the Old Testament. God had the privilege to have multiple nations, have a relationship with multiple nations, but he chose only one nation, which is Israel. And he considered Israel his wife. So he has let go of his ability to have multiple and decided to take with one. Okay, and Jesus comes on this earth. He leaves all his power and all his authority, and comes to say he wants to rescue a people for himself. He abandons what he has so that he can be a rescue for us. And he asks us to be faithful to him, just as he is faithful to us, the church. So the church that's why the church is not for the brides of Christ. The church is one bride. Is to Obaba. I hope you are getting it. So for us, these are our models, which is why we also say we talk about fidelity or faithfulness to one partner. That's where all the things come from, which is what we talked about last week. So, but polygamy is I have the resources, so I should be able to have as many as I want or need. So it is always beneficial to those who are stronger. 2, it also makes finding a partner easier for women, because so far as the man's strength can cover me too, I can just go and join his. If he spreads his wings a bit, so I can talk at this place. Then you hear me. So generally, polygamy made it easier for women to actually find a partner, because it didn't place a limit on once a man can provide, quote unquote, in most cultures. There's nothing wrong with me coming to join myself with him. You get me? If he has 3 or 4 partners already, that's not a problem. Me there, he can take care of me. Let's not forget, this is a world in which most resources is the men who has it. It's only today that women who are working and people they have their own money. But back then, everything is the men. You hear me? So the natural thing is the men, the stronger man gains more of the women. And the women to gravitate towards the men who have the resources. You get me? Okay. But the outcome of these two, that is, the stronger men can have more partners than 2. The women are looking for stronger men to take care of them, means that, quote unquote, weaker men struggle to find a partner. Now, their best bet is that they have to look for maybe a younger or poorer woman who hasn't yet caught the attention of the strong man. Yes, polygamy creates very, very intense competition in cultures. And especially amongst men. Among the women, it's much easier. Which of you is has said, I go and join this one? It's almost like even if you look in the animal kingdom, you have these alpha male animals who have access to all the females it's the same. But that means that the other males are deprived. Okay. So what I was saying is that the best bet for a quote unquote weaker man to find a partner is that he has to go out and look for other females who may not yet have been seen by the stronger man. One of the outcomes of this is child marriage. Because you have to a lot of the quote quote unquote, marriageable women are probably already looking towards the rich person. I hope you are getting it. So your chance of finding a woman to be able to procreate, because evolution is about procreating and keeping this thing going, is that you go and look for, she's just at puberty. At least this one, me and him, her can start something. So then you put your hand on her, secure her. Or even not just secure, actually marry her. Catch them young. Because if they grow small, they will see the system top. And then they will start going to, they will go to the one who already has 3 wives or 4 wives to add. So, they say the women like soft life. It's not their fault. Evolution has designed it that this is how evolution works. I hope you are getting it. So it creates a struggle for weaker men to find a partner. And because of this, it is a well-documented fact that the lack of partners for weaker men leads to antisocial and violent behavior. Why? Because if I look at my one, me, the woman, I know they get some married. Them or all of them are going to this rich man, so and so. I will not be able to have any children in this one. What is my use? When a person, this is a well-studied thing, when people have children, they become a bit more sober. Imagine so what man? And no pure man. You get me? You have to think of how to. I put out that, today we are going here, but we are doing this, we are chilling, we are whatever. Or telling that life is hard. Charlie, let's pick some plan and this money, let's go and rob him. Let's go and use that. So, why? Because you are not thinking, if you alone go to prison, you're not worried about it. But when you have 2 or 3 children at home, and then you have to think about them, go to prison. Who will look at that? So one of the side effects of polygamy is that for weaker men, and unfortunately, weaker men will always form the larger majority. There is a strong edge towards not valuing their own lives and therefore doing things that are actually damaging to their own prospects. But they don't see any other way out. So they don't value it. You get me? So it leads to more antisocial behavior, more violent behavior within society. Polygamy benefits the strong and disadvantages the weak. And the weak's only option is to do all sorts of things. Okay. Of course, number 5 is it leads to the devaluation of women. Because the women, they are just there to find a husband. When they talk, we don't listen to them. After all, why? If you don't have husband, what's your value? Do you hear me? Even if you have the husband, why are you speaking? Is your husband wants to talk? I'm saying these things, but people who have lived in certain parts of Ghana, especially the northern parts of Ghana, will tell you this experience. Where polygamy is a lot more, we sometimes in the South, we don't see some of these things. But in the northern part of Ghana, it's a huge problem. It is, again, well documented. A lot of the men are just sitting down, crossing their legs. And the women are working so hard in northern Ghana. And the men have just crossed their legs. They have 3, 4 wives. Meanwhile, when something happens, important, I go to the hospital and you need to take care of the women, then the men get angry. I told the doctor, you are taking a decision that is beneficial to the health of the woman. No, you must have consulted me first. I've heard so many stories. Remember that I need to go kaya. Mu amu sombi. A man also sombia. Hey, what rights do you have to get it? But that's one benefit. One effect of polygamy is the devaluation of women. Because again, evolution is the strong, quote unquote, men are strong. So they are the ones to be listened to. The women, their input is not as important. I hope you agree. Then one of the things that it also leads to, maybe the last one, there's more, but I can't go say all of them. So I just picked six of them. Polygamy leads to the limiting the wealth accumulation by multiple offspring of strong men. But so far as you, the rich man, you have multiple wives, I beg, you will have multiple children. And there is a benefit of it. I was telling you the other day, I went to ask my own man, you know what? I'm getting confused with all these uncles and aunties and whatnot. I beg, let's sit down and write, do that. How many, who are the wives and who are the children? By the time we finished doing the calculation, apparently my grandfather had 8 wives and 19 children. But he was a rich man. And each woman you marry, they need to secure themselves by making sure something comes out of it. And it's not even a matter of securing themselves. I mean, the natural act of you being with a woman with that, some children will come out of it. Anyway. So you tend to have more children. But then what happens is what you have struggled to acquire, the wealth that you struggled to acquire, becomes something that now needs to be inherited and shared across all these children. Which means the amount that each child will get will be small. So what they can use it to do is limited. Their economic power is much more limited. If you had $3 million and you had 3 children, each child gets $1 million. You know what $1 million with somebody who's a visionary can do with $1 million? Now you have the same $3 million and you have to share with 20 children. So no matter how you share it, everybody will get small. So the impact that can be made is smaller. I mean, go to Singapore, look at their population. They're very small, 2 million people or something, but they have so much money. So when they say they're going to do something, they are gone. But look at us, Ghana, 30 million. The money is not even reaching us. So everybody is struggling for that small. You see that problem. So polygamy primarily is again to the benefit of the strong men during their life. They get the enjoyments of it, but they are depriving the next generation of the economic advantage that can be gained by the wealth that they have. Okay, so now let's look at faithful monogamy. We are doing a comparison. So I'm now one wife. What are its features and what does it look like? So this form of marriage is, quote unquote, unnatural. One man, one wife, according to the way the world works, or the world has worked from the beginning, was not normal. When Jesus Christ was, when Christianity was pushing that idea, it didn't fit the world. Are you getting me? Okay. But meanwhile, it has quite a number of benefits. So number one, it forces stronger men to be self-limiting, in line with the example of God in Jesus Christ. Richer men have the opportunity to marry as many as they want. But because for us as Christians, we are following the instructions of Jesus Christ. What's happening is that we are limiting ourselves. And the thing that self-limiting and self-control is a fundamental part of the Christian faith. Yeah. So wants a benefit to accrue to other people. So he limited himself so that these other people will benefit. I hope you are getting me. So for us as Christians, limiting ourselves for the sake of somebody else's benefit is part and parcel of us. It doesn't make sense to the world because the world is like, I'm here for whatever enjoyment I can get. If I can get 5 wives and be okay managing them, which one is the problem? Their personal enjoyment is the most important. But in Christianity, your personal enjoyment is not the most important. Your obedience to God and your humility and limiting yourself so you can allow others also to flourish, so you can allow others to also benefit from what you have and so on, is more important. So by default, Christianity limits the strong so that it can benefit, so that the rich, the weak can also benefit of the same resources. So yes, it forces stronger men to be self-limiting. And then number two, it therefore increases the pool of women available to weaker men. Again, I'm not saying the men actually. I'm just using strong and weak as to make a point. Or quote unquote, richer and poorer. But it's not just a matter of rich and poor. It increases the pool of women available to weaker men to find a partner and also be able to have children who carry their name forward somehow. So because of this, monogamy, at least faithful monogamy, it leads to a reduction in the need to go for younger and younger children, girls to marry. Because, well, if the whole society, everybody's marrying one, and this man, who is the rich man, has already found this woman he's married to her, then he's out of limits, you can't go in that direction again. Unless maybe you go and pass the back and be doing some side checking business. But at least if we have all accepted that monogamy is what we are doing, then if you are doing side check matter, it's a bit disgraced, a bit. So you don't want matter. So you stay yourself. So now you stop looking in that direction and you start looking at, okay, the ones that I left, which one can I pick? So it gives a chance to quote unquote weaker men to also find somebody to be with and to procreate. So number three, the increased access to finding a partner in procreation reduces antisocial behavior and violent behavior amongst weaker men. Because now you can find somebody you have some 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever children. When you wake up in the morning, you don't be thinking of too much fully. You have children, I'm afraid of you. You hear me? So I'm not saying that all monogamous are like that. I'm saying that it reduces the tendency to antisocial and violent behavior. Because you feel okay, be somebody that is mine, and we have our own children, and we are trying to make sure they will fit somewhere else. But when we wake up in the morning, think of how to survive, how to find something to eat, and not every day let us go and do, or let us be planning how we can do something, attack this other person. If some partial, it will put you somewhere, or maybe in a world where you don't even have proper justice system, people take knife or a stone, or people do what do you call it, mob justice, and they finish there and there. There is always a worry. What is going to happen to them? My wife and my mother. Okay, so it means that one of the, I don't know how to call it positive or negative, but it means that women can't easily default to finding a stronger man to attach to, even if they have previous partners. You can't just, this money, get money, make I do myself and see how I can attach myself, me to be. That's assuming you actually respect what faithful monogamy is. We know that it's always difficult for human beings to be faithful. So I'm saying yes. Maybe yes, for why or didn't, but them or 2 or 3 girls there. I know it can happen. But to a large extent, the mind behind one man, one wife is that Obia incorporated. A man also incorporated. They should not just sit down and say, oh, I find some man who get money. If you get 3 wives, I know my you to adjust with you join. But it also has sometimes the effect that a man also know and why. In a way, it can lead to an increase in single women or even single men, if you want, whichever one. Okay, that's one of the side effects of monogamy. You have wife, right? Maybe you are a rich man, you have wife, you are fine, you have children. But maybe some woman, you say, oh, I'm in a hotel. And she's okay. You hear me? But unfortunately, the sentence is you can't add her. So and she's there. I'm married. But the goal of Christianity was that even if you are not married, you are still valuable to the kingdom of God, and therefore you can still live a full life and so on. But sometimes they might add in here say, "Oh, Maria, if you don't get married, you are useless in society." So, well, and then definitely it leads to a greater valuation and participation of women. But now the women, they actually need to use their husband. You get me? Like make a decision about who they are going to stay. It's not just, oh, I'm just there. I just need to find somebody who has plenty and that's going to happen. Now is everybody has to find their own. So the women have to make a choice. And if they are making a choice, then it means that They have more say in how the marriage is going to go and how life itself in general is going to go. They are not just there under the man's protection and the man gets to say whatever they want. So generally, monogamy, monogamy led to an increase in the women's value. They have more say. That is what Jesus wanted in the world. The women are fully equal to the men. So any system that helps the women have more value to be able to stand up and speak for themselves. Hallelujah. Even if it means some of them will be single, it's still hallelujah. They should decide for themselves how they use their lives. And then so we talked about 6 points. So the 6 points on the other side is fewer offspring means more wealth is passed on to the next generation, which can be used to more economic effect. So once you are married to only one, even if you give birth to 10 children, it's only one. There are very few people who can give birth to 10 children. Most are doing. Me, my grandma, she gave for 6, 7 children, 5 men, 2 women. She tried. But in today's age, 3, 2, 4, 5, 6, they are not going that far to 19 and 20 and whatever. So in the end, for the wealthier men, and even for weaker men who would, at least because they had more stability in life, they're able to struggle and get something to pass on. At the end of the day, what you pass on is able to have a greater effect on the next generation. Because they can take that and use it. It is of higher value. I was giving an example, which is $3 million shared among 20 children versus $3 million shared among 5 children. Or let's use 5 million. That's square. Everybody is getting 1 million. As compared to 5 million shared among 20. So if I am one of the children getting 1 million and I start a business, I've already started at a very strong position. And the things that I'm able to do will be much bigger. But when you split it across multiple people, you now have to get all of them to agree to do something huge for them to actually say, okay, let me bring my own. I already know they are all split across different mothers. This woman is suspecting this woman of this, and this one is whatever. Now, if children born to one woman, there's so much confusion. It's difficult for them to work together. How much more children born to different women? You get me? So the impact that the wealth has been acquired is able to make on the next generation is much stronger in the monogamy than in polygamy, which helps me get to this point that I was saying the other way, the other day to some friends. Faithful monogamy is an investment in society and in your children. It's like paying taxes or paying pension. When you're a kid, when you it's your money. You should be able to chop all the money yourself. But government says no. You have to give us some so that we use it to develop the society. So you limit yourself for the benefit of the larger society. Or like a pension. You get your salary, the government says, no, you have to give some for pension. So that when you are old, we take care of you as pension. But that money, when it is collected, it can be used for multiple other things to benefit the larger society. To the time you are there, and then they'll be giving you the pensions. And it gets me to a point which for us Christians is very important. I repeat this, at the center of the Christian faith is the idea that those who are stronger limit themselves so that they can give to those who are weaker. Because that is what Jesus said. That's what the New Testament says. So even in marriage, it's the same thing. When Paul says a husband must love their wife and give himself just as Christ gave himself, how did Christ give himself? By sacrificing himself. So what we are saying is that the men should sacrifice the advantages they have so that it may inure to the benefit of their wife and their children. And in the long term, to society in general. But at the time that New Testament is saying this, it is saying this in a world where everybody is like, no, the man's enjoyment is the most important thing. So, for example, in Roman society, you can have one official wife as a man, but you can have boyfriends, sexual boyfriends, or sexual girlfriends, and it's okay. The people are worried about gay, blah, blah. The men, they feel like they want to have sex with men, other men. Their problem. Nobody will even question them. They feel like they want to have other women. That's that half official women. Yeah, that one, when the children come to that one, they are the ones who recognize it. But when men are walking about, they have so many children, so many corners. But they are bastards. If you want Game of Thrones, they are bastards. They are not quote unquote official. So, quote unquote, the strong fulfillment of their own desire was more important than anything else. And to this day, this is how the world is. Which is why a lot of times when I see people arguing, oh, monogamy, especially Christians, or people who claim themselves claim to be Christians, oh, polygamy is in the back. Adam had one wives. David had so many wives. So why are you trying to? It is a way to go back to my old world thinking, where men get to dictate all the enjoyment that they want to get, and nobody should tell them anything. Where the privileged people get to retain their privilege and not make any sacrifice for the sake of other people. An example of something going in the world where many white people, for example, in the US, would much prefer their own comfort and care very little about what is happening to people of other races because their comfort is the most important. It's called social Darwinism. The idea that the strongest must always maintain their people, and they must never be made to sacrifice anything for the benefit of those who are weaker. But in Christianity, it doesn't work that way. To understand it, if you look at philosophers, atheist philosophers, and all of these things, some of the most prominent, like Nietzsche and all these, the idea of people They were not very happy with Christianity because they saw through what Christianity is. Christianity limits people's ability to attain whatever greatness they can attain. All right. So Nietzsche had the idea of an Übermensch, like the religion is limiting us from being the best thing we can be. And so we should need to get rid of it so that we can do whatever we want and achieve our greatest goals. You need to remember, religion can be blamed for a lot of things. Christianity has done a lot of evil. But trust me, the way I see the history of the world, if not for Jesus Christ, we would do worse things to ourselves. We would not be where we are today. And those who adopted some of these, unfortunately, Europe was forced by the Roman Catholic Church into monogamy. It was still difficult. There were still people having their concubines and whatnot. But gradually they pushed, and many people just adopted one man, one wife as their model. And it had a multiplier effect on their economy. This is long before they even came to Africa to start taking it. The archaeologists will tell you, if you compare Europe before slavery, before they came here back then, to other cultures around them, because of the impact of Christianity, Europe was already getting ahead economically. And one of the important things was monogamy. So again, if we do the comparison, it is the fake monogamy is the unnatural thing because it forces us to limit ourselves in our seeking of quote unquote pleasure and enjoyment. But it benefits the larger society in the stability that it brings and the economic empowerment that it gives to the next generation. And it always didn't make sense then, at least when it started. It was like, I will start, you can marry all these things, you enjoy yourself today, you are that. Why this? How can you say one? People say that all the time. It must be very boring. Of course, it's boring. We are not saying that monogamy is going to be the order. And all these movies and one that we keep telling people, now when you get married, then the sky, you are feeling so high. I beg. Marriage is not all that. So, the movies and the songs and everything make it like it is the height of self-fulfillment. They apply to you. Again, and they terrorize the younger generation, the single ones. It is not all that. But for us as Christians, it is we are entering it and staying faithful to this one person. Because one, that is what we've been taught is beneficial to all of society. It is even beneficial to our own selves. It is a self-limiting move. Paul says, submit to one another. Submit to one another. In a world where the men have all the resources and all the money, why should they submit to their wives? But you lower your pride, so you submit to one another. The men, some mobile of the kakra. What's going to say? Yes. Omra months baby. I say saying Jesus Christ didn't go to Homa. No, sorry, son and send my Beman. Who can go and say this thing in the normal world? Like, what do you mean? Even amongst Christians, don't want to accept that men must be self-sacrificial for the sake of their marriages. Even among many, so how much more the world in general. So me, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with people who don't believe in Christianity or whatever, saying, "Oh, you want to go back to this or want to do that." And now the South Africans, they are saying what they want the women to marry more women. No. But most of the time, it's the men. Yes. Right. Yes. Okay.